The Marty and Laura Show is brought to you by Veterinary Village. With locations throughout Wisconsin, Veterinary Village is dedicated to enhancing the quality of animal and human lives today and into the future. All right, you guys, welcome to the Marty and Laura Show. Marty is actually at home in Wisconsin. We're so thrilled for her. She's not in her car. She's not in a hotel room. She's not on a yacht, in a boat, or in the middle of the Caribbean, or anything. So,
Or in England or France or
France or any of
whatever.
those.
Yes.
And we are super excited because last week we talked about, things that we recommend against, right? So we recommended against dog parks and against doggy daycares in most situations. And so we thought it was really important to talk about what is a positive way to think about it. And that is sort of life skills for your pet and separation anxiety, which is, I know, a thing that a lot of people deal with, and just generally helping your dog feel comfortable home alone. And so, you can think of the Home Alone movie with the kid. What was his name? Macaulay Culkin
Kevin.
screaming,
Yeah. Kevin.
Kevin! Um, I have friends with dogs named Kevin, so it's a little weird, but there you go. And so I think if we can talk to everybody and think about really helpful ways for your pet to be at home alone, particularly as we transition, in most cases now almost exclusively everybody's back to working in office, not working from home. And so all those pandemic dogs that have never had 30 seconds of, you know, being by themselves find a new way of life more challenging. So talk to us about that, Marty. Talk about some of the sort of veterinarian ways of thinking about the way the little doggy brain interacts with that concept.
Yeah, and it's really hard for a lot of these dogs. And we were trying to coach people through it before they had to go back to work or before something else happened in their life to say, you need to teach your dog to be alone. I had a client that came in with her dog for a neuter, she and her husband, and they were retired. And they said, well, we want to stay with him for the sedation and all that because he's never been away from us. And I said, what? And they said, yeah, he's never been away from us. And I said, he's a year and a half old. You mean not for 1 minute? And they said, no, we've always been there with him. And I said, well, what are you going to do if something happens to one of you and you end up in the hospital? Not if, but when. And they're like, oh, that's not going to happen. Well, newsflash, you're 70 and something at some point in your life is going to happen in the next decade for this dog's life. So
Mhm.
let's start prepping. So there are some things that you can do to help prepare them for being left alone, whether it's to go to work or something more significant. And some of them are pharmaceutical and some are non-pharmaceutical, and that's okay to use pharmaceuticals if you need them, because it can shorten the learning curve. So I don't want people to feel guilty or bad or any of those things if they feel like a pharmaceutical assistance to shorten the dog's learning curve is appropriate. Because I've seen dogs hurt themselves badly trying to rip out of crates and out of kennels, and they can really do some
House.
damage.
Mm.
Yeah, damage to themselves, damage to the house. I've had one dog that the owner came home and he was hanging over the top of the kennel, and she doesn't know for how long, half in the kennel and half out. And there's some pretty devastating things that can happen to these dogs. So we need to teach them the
Mm.
life skills that they need so that a real world experience can happen for them. So that may include teaching them, and Patricia McConnell does a great job of explaining how to leave the dog for a short period of time and then longer and longer and longer. And you can use a crate, you can use other kind of confinement areas that you can teach them to be comfortable in so that they do feel at ease. A lot of dogs figure out pretty fast if they're going with you that day or you're leaving them for that day or if they're going to daycare or what's going to happen based on the pair of shoes that you put on, believe it or not, or which bag you pick up, or whether you've got this jacket or that jacket on. And it's pretty interesting to see how resourceful these dogs are and how they learn. And that's called back chaining. When they figure those things out, is they first see you leave and then they see you put on the shoes that you wear when you leave, and then they see you put the jacket and the shoes on before you leave, and then they see you pick up the keys. And so
Mhm.
they start to back chain. So very quickly you can see that they are developing anxiety as you're prepping to leave them or take them along. I mean, some of them get very excited. We have a lot of people that hunt as clients, and the dog knows if they're going
Oh,
hunting that day. And if they get left behind because they're in, that like they hurt themselves the day before, they're like, no, 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 take me, take
so
me.
mad.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
it's a lot of things.
some of our old show dogs, right? When they retire from
Yes.
going to the dog shows, they are so, I mean, butt hurt
Yeah.
because they want to be the center of attention. And what do you mean I have to stay
Yeah.
home? And I'm like,
Yeah.
honey, I've only got so much space in the vehicle, and
Right.
you're not going to the dog show.
Right.
Oh, the drama.
Oh, yeah. I'm taking my old lady with me this weekend. She's 11 and a half, and she finished her championship at 11 and a half. But we're taking her with us because she's really not a dog. She doesn't want to be with the dogs. I've kind of spoiled her. I recognize that. I have 14 dogs, and well, it doesn't mean you can't spoil them all, but she is special in a very large number of ways. And so they know that, and
Yep.
they are hurt.
Yep.
So the trick to it is to start teaching them to be comfortable in their own skin so that they can be comfortable in a crate or in the bedroom or in the laundry room or wherever it is that you've chosen for them to be, that is safe as long as they don't chew through the door and the wall, that is safe for them so that you can do those things. So Dr. McConnell talks about leaving them for 1 minute and then a minute and a half and then 2 minutes. And so you pick up the keys, walk out the door, walk back in, and they're cool. So you give them a treat, like they're good. And then you have to do those in very, very, very tiny incremental changes at the beginning. Once you get to an hour, it can go to 4 hours pretty quickly. But
Mhm.
to go from 1 minute to 5 minutes is too long. You
Right.
have to go from 1 minute to 1 minute and 10 seconds. Like you have to do tiny little incremental changes so
Mhm.
that the dog realizes they're okay and you'll be back and it's all cool. Finding things for them to do while you're gone is
Right.
very useful so
Yes.
that they aren't just twiddling their thumbs and trying to figure out what kind of trouble they can get into next. Because no matter how hard you try to dog proof your house or your life, you have spent 15 minutes doing that and they spend the next 23 hours and 45 minutes undoing it. So believe me, they are watching you every second. There's that t-shirt, every bite you take, every
Yes.
meal you
Yes.
make, I'll be
Yes.
watching you. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
totally true.
Totally true. So I'm going to put a couple links in the show notes, guys. We had a topic about this a couple years ago on Pure Dog Talk with someone who specializes right in training separation anxiety dogs, and she was really really interesting and had some good stuff. So I'm going to include that as well, and I'm going to kind of I know laundry rooms are a popular thing, but I'm just going to say this, and I don't want to scare people, but honest to God, a very dear friend of mine lost a dog that way because the dog panicked in the laundry room and managed to turn on the hot water on a very hot day, and it did not end well. And
Yeah.
so, um, I am a huge fan of dog crates for the dog's safety, um,
Yes.
safety of everything you own, but most importantly, the dog safety, because
Yes.
it is remarkable what they can do if they are terrified,
Yes.
nervous, frantic enough.
Yes. And I heard the same type of story in a hotel bathroom
Mhm.
where the dogs were left in the bathroom and the water got turned on, the hot water got turned on, and it was an unfortunate end. So those are things that you don't even think could possibly happen until it happens. So I use crates for my dogs. There are safe crates, there are really great crates.
Yep.
There's a lot of different ways to do it. It's not just about being in the car, it's about being in the house as well. And there's a lot of ways to do crates really well. So if you feel guilty about it, get over it because your dog needs to be safe and they're relying on you for that safety. And you're not going to be able to keep them safe if you're not there. You wouldn't leave a 2-year-old at home by themselves, and it's no different to leave a dog home because they'll find all kinds of things. They'll eat things in the garbage and they'll tear up the drywall and they'll stand in the middle of your stove and hurt themselves and they'll break windows and
Yep.
all this stuff truly happens because we've seen it all.
Yeah.
If it can go wrong, it
It will
will.
go wrong. And
So just
so
face reality.
I really think the important part of the conversation is to think about the dogs in a crate, in a safe environment, as your good thing that you do for your pet, right? Like this is
Yes.
not a punishment. And as long as
No.
you don't think of it as a punishment, the dog doesn't either. I mean,
Right.
truly, that is a fact. My dogs
A
are
lot.
quieter when I put them in their crates. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's nap time. It is
Yeah.
a safe space. And so they settle into a safe space if you take the opportunity to kind of give them the idea that this is happening, to teach them that
Right.
this is a safe space, to feed them in their crate, to let them sleep
Right.
in their crate, right? To
Right.
give them the opportunity to adjust to it before you're just suddenly gone for 8 hours and they're like, wait, what?
Right. Right. There has to be training that goes with it. So
Right.
Patricia McConnell's book, I'll Be Home Soon, is a wonderful resource. So if you're looking for some written help
Yeah.
that's really done well, she's an animal behaviorist. She's retired now, but she's a PhD animal behaviorist, has a number of books, taught training classes in Wisconsin, taught at the University of Wisconsin, the ethology classes. She's outstanding. So any of her books are really, really reliable and really helpful. And
Yeah.
that is probably my favorite book for how to manage separation anxiety. Now, there's other things you can do to make the dog more comfortable in the crate. So you start with little time, really, really short periods. You make sure the
Mhm.
crate is comfortable.
Yeah.
So if your dog doesn't eat the blanket, the towel, or whatever crate mat you put in there, they can have that. So it's comfortable.
Mhm.
I don't typically leave a water bottle or a water bowl in the crate because it tends to be messy, but I use a lot of water bottles, the Lixit bottles
Mhm.
that you can hang on the crate. They have that metal tip on them with a little ball on the end, like a gerbil bottle, but they make
Yep.
dog-sized ones. So you can hang that on the crate so that the dog has access to water during the day if you choose, and the dog isn't spilling it and running around in it and
Right.
soaking the crate pad and having a party,
Right.
because you don't need to come home to find that. And if you remember, the more water you leave, the more they're going to drink. The more they drink, the more likely they are to urinate
Yeah.
in the crate. And I have people that say, "Oh, well, he didn't eat while I was gone because he knew he couldn't go out." Okay, your dog isn't that smart. I'm just going to tell you. I think your dog is pretty smart, but it's not that smart. I know I'm not supposed to eat too much and I'm on a diet,
Yeah.
but I still want to eat the chocolate chip cookie, and
Yeah.
I probably will.
Yeah.
So knowing you're not supposed to doesn't really put like a roof on it. You're just
Yeah.
still going to do it.
Yeah.
So you have to give them some guidance, and
Yeah.
a little bit of water in a drinking bottle is pretty great. They're a wonderful tool to give the dog water so you don't feel bad about it, but it has the tip on it so they have to slowly drink it. So
Mhm.
they can't guzzle down the entire bowl in the first
Right.
10 seconds that you leave the house.
And I know you love the Lixit bottles. I use clipped on water buckets, right?
Mhm.
They have ones that have a flat side, rest right up against the side of the crate. Hang it on the window,
Yep.
if you will, the little wire part there with a double-ended hook. And I don't leave them a full bucket, like a
No.
gallon of water, but they have enough water for the X number of hours that I'm going to be away that they're comfortable. They have a nap. They also, at least for mine, and particularly when they're young and they're just kind of learning to be in a crate, I love food toys. So I take
Mhm.
their food and I shove it into a Kong toy, or I
Yes.
shove it into a boiled beef bone, or whatever it is. What are your
Right.
thoughts on that?
I think those are great. There's a couple of nuances to it. Kongs are those rubber toys that look like a snowman, and when you throw them, they bounce erratically. They have a small hole in one end and a big hole in the other. They're great to stuff, and you can stuff them the night before if you're in a hurry in the mornings. So you can stuff them the night before, and you can put peanut butter or spray cheese or cream cheese or whatever in it. And then you can
Yogurt.
tuck yogurt. You can tuck other things in it, and then you can pop it in the freezer.
Mhm.
So if it's frozen, it takes them longer to get that out. What the most important part is number one is that their jaw can't get stuck in the lower jaw can't get stuck in the Kong. So the size appropriate Kong is necessary. And as the puppy gets bigger and bigger, you need to change the size of the Kong. Number two is they are not all the same density. So the black ones are harder to chew up than the red ones. The blue ones are easier to chew up. So if you have a really aggressive chewer, you want to make sure that you size it and you get the appropriate density of Kong. And
Mhm.
should your dog chew it up and you're not sure if the dog ate any of it or not, when you go to the vet, take the remaining piece and they can x-ray it with the dog, because some of the Kongs are radio opaque and some are not.
Oh, interesting.
So, some will show up on X-ray. Like you probably don't know this, but Barbie doll shoes have barium in them, so that when the kid sticks it up their nose or swallows it, it shows up on an X-ray. Just saying. So,
No, no, Marty, I did not know that.
yeah, well, Barbie doll shoes are, they're just the right size to go into all kinds of children's orifices.
I
Just saying.
had Briar horses. I wasn't so much of a Barbie doll girl, so
Well,
I
but
don't know.
they're still out there. I mean, they're still in the stores. I saw some last night when I was shopping, so I know they're still out there.
Nope,
Um,
nope.
so I think it's important that you choose
Yeah.
the Kong correctly.
Yeah.
They make slow feeders for dogs, and I think those are nice if your dog uses it effectively. Some are too hard for dogs, some are too easy for dogs, so it's a little tricky to kind of get the right level. And each dog may have their a different skill set.
Hmm.
And then I use muffin tins because those are cheap. And you can buy the metal ones at the dollar store. And I don't use the silicone ones, but you can use the metal ones. And you can take yogurt or beef broth or chicken broth or whatever you want it to be, water, and you can put your dog's breakfast kibble into that. So you measure the amount of kibble they're supposed to get, you divide it up into the 6 or 12 wells, whatever number you decide to use, pop it in the freezer the night before, and when you get ready to leave in the morning, this is the important part, you put it in the crate with the dog locked out of the crate. So the dog is standing on the outside of the crate and the muffin tin is inside the crate, or the Kong toy or whatever it happens to be. And the dog is looking into the crate and looking at you and looking into the crate and looking at you and saying, could you hurry up and get out of here? Because I need to get in there and work on my breakfast. And you're slowing me down. So could you put me in the crate and go to work now? So you can do some things that sound kind of stupid, but they actually work because you can now flip the dog's opinion of being in the crate, especially if you are emotional about it. Do not be emotional about it. This is what you were saying before.
Where I was just going to.
Don't go there. It's not like, oh, sweetheart, I'm going to be home soon. It'll be okay. No, you're going in the crate. Here's your Kong. Here's
See you
your
later.
muffin tin. Have a great day. I'll see you tonight.
Yeah.
And walk out the door. Like if you make it a big deal when you leave and a big deal when you come home, your dog is going to urinate submissively. Your dog is going to whine. Your dog is going to bark. Your dog knows what time you're coming home because they have a little watch set in their head. And 15 minutes before you're supposed to be home, they start barking. And then your neighbor tells you, your dog barked all day, which really means your dog barked for 15 minutes. But you
Yeah.
don't know that unless you have cameras on in your house. So, those are things you can do. And have a camera. I mean, if your neighbor's
I was
complaining
just
about it,
going to that one next. See, it's like
yeah,
we read each other's minds. There's some
yeah.
kind of,
Ah,
Vulcan mind trick going on here. Because I think it and it comes out your mouth. It's crazy. Um,
but but this is life. This is how we live.
this
Is
how we
I
live.
can have a Simply Safe
Yep.
camera in my house,
Yes.
and I can watch my dog. I can watch I can watch her get into the bathtub while I'm gone and go, what are you doing in there? Oh, it's thundering. Okay, got it. Yeah, don't turn on the faucet. So yes, there's a lot
Yep.
of things that you can do. And if your neighbors are starting to make noise about those things, number one, you should pay attention to them. And number two, you should figure out if it's really your dog that's barking and what
Right.
time they're barking and how
Right.
long they're barking for. Because sometimes they hear somebody else's dog and blame it on your dog.
Mhm.
So just be
Yep.
aware that they're not always accurate in their reporting or their analysis of what's
Well,
happening.
and in case you think your dog doesn't know what time it is,
Mm,
think back to we just did a time change and how long it took that dog to decide that dinner didn't happen an hour earlier than it was supposed to
right,
on the clock. And so
right.
I promise you, they can tell time. Okay,
Yeah.
so
And
nonchalance,
they hear your car. They hear your
yes,
car
they
3
totally
blocks
do.
away.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously,
Hmm.
like if you have like my sister used to have a boyfriend that drove a kind of a loud truck. The dog knew he was coming before he was even close to the house. So they can pick up things smell wise, hearing wise. They're don't kid
100%.
yourself. Your dog spent 23 hours and 45 minutes figuring out what you were going to do next.
It's true.
Doggett simplifies the puppy buying journey by connecting families with the perfect breed and responsible, health-verified breeders. They are the only breeder marketplace that verifies health clearances and responsible breeding practices. Through their personalized puppy matcher tool and matchmaker services, they educate and guide buyers every step of the way, ensuring a seamless process and a perfect match for their lifestyle. From initial breed consultation to introductions with top breeders, Doggett makes responsible puppy ownership easy and stress-free.
So dial down the emotional display,
Yep.
and give them treats and do lots of practice with your crate and all of these things. The other thing that I think is important, I happen to have a breed that's really, really smart, right? And so they're more tired out when I do mind work with them than when I do physical work with them. But it's a thing to think about. A tired dog is a happy dog. And so if you can add half an hour to the start of your day, right, in which you take your dog on a walk around the block and practice your heeling, nicely loose leash on heel and sit when you stop and lie down, and all of those mind games that you do in that 20 or 30 minutes that you walk around the block with the dog, that dog is going to be like, okay, whew, we've had our morning routine. It's time for me to take a nap and have breakfast.
Absolutely. So it's much better for them to be tired. The morning after Super Bowl Sunday, you're not partying, you go to work like a little worn down because
Right.
you drank too much and stayed up too late.
Mhm.
So, think about those things. Think of what wears you out. Think of what wears out your dog and try to prep them
Getting
so
them
that
drunk
when
is
you are,
not one of
yeah,
those things.
no, no, no,
Just
no, no alcohol for the dog, please. But do the things that would set them up for success. And that's basically what we're saying is the
yeah.
muffin tin, the puzzles, the Kongs, the stuff that you're doing are all things that can set you up to be successful with your dog because it's important to us that you have good relationship with your dogs, your family, and your neighbors, because
Yes.
that's a big deal.
And it's important for the dog. Why do you want to make your dog unhappy? And
No
leaving
way.
is not what's making the dog unhappy. And I think that's an important thing, it's distinction. Like dogs aren't going to die because you're not there. It's really not. It's going to sleep
No.
the day whether you're home or not. So the person who's unhappy is you, and you are feeding that to your dog like a biscuit.
hmm Absolutely, and they know every bit of it, so don't kid yourselves. So, yeah, you just have to be cool about it. But if all else fails, if you're not
You are
getting where you wanna
so
be,
incredible. Like I literally.
if you're not getting where you wanna be, please do not reach for the CBD and the other stuff that you might think is okay for over-the-counter products. Benadryl is not a sedative. Benadryl is an antihistamine. It will not make your dog less anxious, it will just make your dog weird and probably more anxious. So if you're looking for something that's anti-anxiety, you need to speak to your veterinarian about a pharmaceutical agent, something that's been approved by the FDA, something that we know is safe for dogs, something that we know what is the drug dose and what the level of the drug in that medication is. Because if you go buy CBD and all the other stuff, we have no flippin' idea what's in it. There's no regulations on it. One batch could be different than the next. I've seen some very bad reactions to those products.
Mhm.
So just in a word, don't do it. Don't. So talk to your vet. There is gabapentin, there is trazodone, there's tramadol, there is alprazolam, there is Xanax. There's Cilio, there's all kinds of really good pharmaceutical agents,
Mhm.
clomipramine, um, buprenorphine. I'm sorry, not buprenorphine, um, buspirone. There's all kinds of really good anti-anxiety medications on the market for your dog. They're not terribly expensive, like fluoxetine. It's pennies a day.
Mhm.
So get your dog something that is approved by your vet, that your vet knows the dose, adjust the dose until you get to what you want, because you may not start off with the right dose. Fluoxetine takes 6 to 12 weeks to get to a therapeutic level.
Oh,
So
wow.
while you're waiting for that to happen, you can layer in another drug so that the dog can get there. So I look at the anti-anxiety drugs. I don't say anxiety because I don't want to make them anxious. I want to treat their anxiety. So it's anti-anxiety. It's like worming and deworming. You don't worm the dog. You don't want to give them worms. You want to deworm the dog. So you start off with a low dose, but while you're doing that, you can add that other drug in. So fluoxetine is one of the drugs that you give every single day long term because the
Mhm.
dog has chronic low grade anxiety. There are other drugs that are short acting and you use them episodically. So I'm going to the vet, I'm going to the groomer, I'm going to drive to, the cabin up north,
Mhm.
and the dog doesn't do well in the car, then you can layer that other drug on or give that other drug without fluoxetine based on what your dog's needs are. And there are behaviorists that are very good at doing this. There is an American Society of Veterinary Animal Behavior. You can find behaviorists. They may be board certified in behavior. They may not be. They may just be somebody with an interest in it. There are good dog trainers that can help you with this. But if they tell you Benadryl, acepromazine, or some of those other drugs are anti-anxiety, go to see someone else that knows what they're doing, because there are some very well-trained behaviorists around the country, and you can find them if you go to the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behaviorists, AVSAB. You'll find the members, and you can find someone that can help you with this. The Association of Pet Dog Trainers, it's another good group. There's several good ones out there, but find somebody that's good. Don't find, Sally's cousin's brother's
Right.
uncle, because we don't know anything about him. Find somebody that has credentials.
Um, the other one, how do you feel about using this? I know we've talked about it in other situations, but the pheromone, I can't think of the
Yeah.
name right off the top of my head.
Adaptil or Zenodog are the two that are currently on the market. And for cats, it's Feliway. So there's a kitty equivalent. Feliway actually came to market first. So Feliway is the pheromone that cats have in their lips and their chins when they rub on your
Mm-hmm.
shoe or rub on the corner of the couch. That's what they're doing is they're releasing those pheromones. Those are feel-good pheromones. For dogs, it's from the placenta and the mammary tissue of the female, the mother dog when she has babies. So that's they're both derived from those. They didn't like go milk a dog, just to be clear. Um, it's not,
Okay, good.
it's not
Thank you
like
for
you can get,
clarifying
yeah,
that.
you aren't going to get 20 gallons of milk out of a dog. So they're pheromones and they're synthetic pheromones, but basically they're feel good pheromones. They are okay at a low level of anxiety. You
Mm-hmm.
can start puppies off with it before they go in the car. I mean, my puppies ride in the car from day one, every day, twice a day. Like that's my life, but that's
Right.
not everybody's life. So if you haven't trained the puppy to ride in the car and it's little before it goes to its new home,
Mm-hmm.
spray the inside of the carrier, spray the towel, put the puppy
Mm-hmm.
in, let it sit in the car for a few minutes, then take off. So you can do some things with pheromones that are fairly low level, but for really upper level anxiety, that's not enough.
Okay.
Part of sometimes we'll use Serenia or
Mm-hmm.
ondansetron, mostly Serenia for car sickness, because some of the time that dogs are anxious in the car, it's because they're nauseous.
Right.
Letting them look out the side window makes them nauseous, so you can cover the crate. Dogs should be in a crate in your car. We've talked about this before.
Yep.
So there are some things you can do to make the dog more comfortable. I use a ton of ginger snaps. Like ginger snaps I buy a case or two a week. Um, and I just
That cracks me up. I can't imagine there's enough ginger in there.
It
Really.
it seems to work because I used to feed liver brownies to the dogs, and the clients would say, "Oh no, don't feed him liver brownies. He's going to get sick in the car. He did last time." I give him ginger snaps. No one ever says don't give him ginger snaps because they never get car sick after they've had him at the clinic. So
Great.
I'll toss, 5 or 10 ginger snaps at a lab during an appointment, or feed little crumbs of it to a chihuahua. I mean, we go through like I am when I go to the dollar store because they're half price at the dollar store compared to what they are at the grocery store. I go to the dollar store, I have this giant overflowing cart of ginger snaps, and they look at me and go, "Oh, yeah, you're from the vet clinic." Yeah, yeah, I am. My mom takes her dog there. Well, good, because she's going to get ginger snaps next
Ginger
time.
snaps.
So we use a ton of them and they work again at a low level, but if the dog has more nausea than that, then Serenia
Mhm.
is your friend. Serenia is a prescription drug. They actually ran an ad campaign and they showed a dog looking a little bit green and they named him Ralph.
I definitely missed that ad campaign, but that is epic.
Well,
Go on.
I see a lot of veterinary ads. So just saying, that's kind of my
Oh,
life.
Ralph. Right.
So there's some little things you can do. So feed the dog ginger a couple of
Mhm.
hours before you go. If the cat or the dog is going to the vet clinic, give them their anti-anxiety medication the night before and the morning of your appointment.
Right.
So it's at therapeutic levels. Don't wait until 5 minutes before you leave and go, "Oh, shoot, I forgot to give the gabapentin." Well, it's a little late now. So, kind of plan some of these things out so
Mhm.
that you can make the experience good for your dog or your cat. Because cats don't like the car. Dogs love the car.
Mhm.
Some dogs get car sick. Um, if you're going to take a long trip, get the dog used to short trips. Go to McDonald's and get him a kitty cone, or go to Starbucks and get him a pup cup, or whatever they do. I don't know. I don't go to Starbucks. So, do some of the stuff that you need to do to make the dog or the cat more comfortable in their own skin. I had a cat that I got in California when I was a senior in vet school. By the time I graduated, she had about 20,000 miles on her.
Oh my.
She had a lot of miles on her. So she would ride on the front seat of the car. She would look around. She was all cool. She had a litter box in the car. She'd get off the seat, go use the litter box, come back up. And it was a stick shift because this was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah.
And my sister learned to drive the stick shift with the cat. Kalamazoo was her name, sitting on the front seat. And I said, if you can shift gears and Cal doesn't fall off the seat, you are driving well. So Kalamazoo was the driver's test. You
Crash
can't,
test dummy. I mean, come
yes.
on.
No, there was no airbag. It was okay. So Kalamazoo, my little black and white tuxedo cat, would sit on the seat,
Oh my
and
God.
my sister would shift gears. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. She fell on the floor again. So yeah, you can't make
That
this
is
stuff up.
amazing. That no, you cannot make this stuff up. But I think, it's just such a reality, and in a way that in our lifetime has never had to be an issue because
Hmm.
of, the pandemic and even my own dog. And I mean, I traveled with dogs for a living. And my own dog, who was born the day they shut down the world during the pandemic, poor Agatha, to this day, as soon as I take a shower and put on my face, even if I'm coming in here to do this recording, she's hysterical. She's like, Mom's leaving. Mom's leaving. Oh my God. No, don't leave me. No. I'm like, good, just go lie down. It'll be fine.
Hmm.
But it is really hard for these dogs to manage.
Hmm.
And so our job to help them is to help them,
Yes.
understand that they're okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing scary, nothing hard. Here's a toy.
Yep. I'll
Be back.
I'll be back. It'll be cool. So do short, itty bitty, tiny little exits and re-entries, and then slowly, very, very slowly extend the time. Because you're not going to walk out the door the first time. Being fair to your dog, you are not going to walk out the door the first time and leave them for 8 hours.
Yeah.
That's not the way to do it. Tough love doesn't count when it comes to this kind of thing.
No.
So
Not throw them in the
they're
deep end, people. That's not nice.
no. No, no. So, think it through. Think about how the dog is going to feel about this and work on it, because there's some very appropriate things you can do to help the dog learn. But they need to have help learning. And for a lot of things, like during COVID, I was raising puppies. And so I went to Walmart one day because I couldn't take my puppies to all the places that I usually went to. And I bought every style of bath mat that they had. Turns out there's 11. There's some that are shiny and some that are flat, and some that have round holes and some that have square holes, and some that have bristles and some that don't, and some that are rigid and some that are soft, and some with slats and some not. And so I had 11, two of each, because I wanted a set to keep that was clean to show
Mhm.
for pictures, and then a set to use. Because the lady at the Walmart checkout, this is before there was self-checkout, kind of looked at me like, "You're buying 22 bath mats?" I'm like, "Yep." But I was able to then put those bath mats down in their whelping box and in their play area, so that they could get used to different surfaces, different looks, different colors, different feels, and because I couldn't take them to the places that I could before. So if you're limited on things, be creative.
Mhm.
Sophia Yin says 100 experiences in 100 days. And so that means, as a new pet owner, you start off every single day figuring out something new that the puppy can be exposed to. And that may be one day a guy in a hat, and one day a lady with an umbrella, and one day a different color bath mat, and one day it's cantaloupe, and then the next day it's watermelon, the third day it's blueberries, and then it's tomatoes. And so you've given them 100 experiences, and
Right.
all you need to do is be a little bit creative about how you do it so that they can experience different things. When I sold one of my farm dog puppies, she was in the clinic yesterday with him. She said, "When he was little, did you feed him honeydew?" And I said, "No, it was cantaloupe." She's like, "Oh my God, I cut into a melon and he went nuts because he smelled it and he's like, yes, because he remembered
Right.
having that
Right.
experience." I mean,
Right.
I didn't ever tell her that. He remembered the experience and how
Right.
much fun it was. So little things like that are not terribly difficult to orchestrate. You can do the same thing with scenting. You can give them all kinds of different
And
things to
you can do
smell,
that
one
with
thing a
older
day.
dogs too. I
Yeah.
think
Oh,
that
yeah.
we talk a lot about the window and the socialization window, and 4 months it slams shut. And rah, rah, rah.
No, it doesn't.
I, maybe you can make a more resilient dog or whatever, but to think that
Hmm.
a dog cannot learn anything past any age is
Yeah.
inaccurate and
Yeah,
not
totally.
fair to the dog.
Yeah, totally. So give them a little bit of credit. They're smarter than we're giving them credit for. And
Yeah.
just think about what kind of creative things that you can do to enhance their life, to give them different social experiences, to make it fun for them. You're not trying to torture them. You're not dragging them out in public if they're not comfortable with that, but teach them to be comfortable with it. Teach them if you have to with pharmaceutical agents, but get them used to all the things that should be appropriate for a normal,
Mhm.
well socialized, emotionally stable dog to handle. And that should be pretty much everything you do.
Home alone or at the brew pub after work, right? Like they should be able
Exactly.
to do whatever needs to be done. And we
Exactly.
are here to help you manage to do that. So, thank you, Marty.
Of course.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Marty and Laura Show. We're excited to bring you these unique, fun, fact-based conversations about pet health. We hope you'll join us on social. Stop by the website to sign up for an extra tip of the week for your pet. While you're at it, do us a favor, please, and leave a review wherever you find your podcasts. The Marty and Laura Show is produced by Pure Dog Talk, Inc., sound design and editing by Premium Audio Services.